What's up, guys, and welcome back to Eventual Acres. So it is officially fall now, and honestly, there is not a whole lot going on in the garden. My plants are looking great. I've been harvesting some lettuce and some spinach. The leaves are continuing to grow. The carrots are starting to pop up really well, and even through all of the straw and leaves and everything that I put on top of the garlic, I can even see the garlic starting to pop up. The peas are looking great. We've had a couple cold nights. We've hit below freezing 2 or 3 times now. The peas still are continuing to grow, which is a good thing, but honestly, I don't really know how long they're going to last with the cold temperatures that are coming. But since there's not a whole lot going on in the garden, I've got a few different fall projects that I want to get done today. So, because it's fall, I am really in the mood to make my fall mead that I do every year. It's an apple cider mead, also known as a Cyser, and I've done it differently the past couple of years. So the first year that I did it, I actually didn't have any equipment to test the gravity readings, or to even really help me along in the process. I didn't know how much honey I was actually adding. I emptied a whole bottle. I assumed it was 2 pounds, but you never really know unless you weigh the honey as you're pouring it into the growler. And that year, I did not pasteurize my apple cider. I just used the raw, unpasteurized apple cider. Last year, I pasteurized the apple cider because my first year, I wasn't really sure if I had a stall, if I had too much sugar, because again, I couldn't check the gravity. And I also thought maybe it could have been because I used raw apple cider that it also could have caused a stall. There's so many different things that I couldn't test for. So last year, to play it safe, I used raw apple cider, but I pasteurized it. I cooked it on the stove, and that turned out really well. But I kind of want to go back and test out and see if it really was the raw apple cider or not. So this year, I'm going to do 2 batches of apple cider mead. I'm going to do one with raw apple cider, and then I'm going to also use, again, this raw apple cider from the same farm, but I'm going to pasteurize it. I'm going to cook it on the stove, and I want to see if there's really any difference. Because this is an experiment, I do want to use pretty much all the same honey, all the same apple cider. So I bought some honey from my friend's mom's farm, which is super local to me. It's literally right around the corner. So I'm going to use the same honey. I'm going to use the same apple cider from the same farm, and I'm going to use the same yeast. So the yeast that I'm going to use is going to be Lalvin 71B. This is just because it's what I have the most of at this time. It's not for any specific reason. Really, any yeast you use should do the trick. So again, to keep this experiment as similar as possible, I'm going to use the same yeast. And then, because right here I only have 2 pounds of honey and 1 pound, I'm not using this 1 pound right here. I want to use it for another project we're going to do today. So I have some raw honey from the farm that I got the apple cider from. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to measure everything out, and we're going to get this mead started. So I'm just going to start by tearing off the scale, and then I'm going to pour in just 1 pound of honey to begin with. It is going to take a little bit to pour all the way through the funnel. So I'm just going to set this aside, and then I'm going to tell you guys about the next project I've got planned for today. Now, another project I want to do today is I want to actually try making some garlic fermented honey. Now, this is something that I've been interested in for a while. It's supposed to be a quick at-home remedy that, with cold and flu season coming around, if you're starting to get the sniffles, you're getting some type of post-nasal drip or whatever, maybe you have a cough, whatever it is, it's supposed to be beneficial for you. It's no different than any other common cold remedy that people might tell you, like gargling salt water or using the neti pot or drinking some tea. It's not medical advice I'm giving you, and I would never give you medical advice. I'm clearly not a doctor. If you're sick, you know your body better than I do. If you're sick, go to the doctor. This is just something that I have interest in and something that I want to try, and it's supposed to be really good. And aside from being used for whatever your common cold symptoms are, it's also supposed to be really good for cooking. So apparently honey and garlic go really good together. I personally have not tried it, but I've read some things about it online. So anything that you would cook honey and garlic with, you can use that as well. So that might also be another thing I use it for. But today I want to just get the process started and kind of see how it goes. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a jar. Again, all of this has been sanitized in advance, but I've got the jar and I'm just going to grab some garlic, grab a cutting board. And the plan is just to skin the garlic. I'm not here to crush it or anything like that. And I want to fill this jar up about halfway to 3/4 of the way. All right, so that's just about half, maybe a little bit less, but I'm not overly concerned with having exactly a half. I think having the garlic in here will be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour in the honey. So still got plenty of honey in the jar. So I'm just going to let this go and pour, and then we're going to get back to the mead. Okay, so this one, all of the honey has finally made its way down. So I'm going to take the other growler, tear it off, and start pouring the other honey for a pound. Perfect. So now both growlers have a pound of honey in them. I can hear the apple cider boiling, so I'm going to take this off, let it drain in, and I'm going to grab the apple cider. All right, so the pasteurized apple cider is all set now. It's hot. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit and cool off because if I put it right into the growler could shatter, which I obviously don't want to happen. Also, if I were to put the yeast in and the apple cider is too hot, it could kill the yeast. So I have to let that cool down, but it is pasteurized. This is still draining some of the honey in. So while that drains, I'm going to go ahead tear this off. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more honey. I'm going to use the honey from the same place that I got the apple cider from because 1 pound honestly isn't going to be enough. Having done this last year, I have an idea of how much honey I should put in. Last year I did 2 pounds. I think I'm going to go just less than that and do 1.5 pounds. So this is a pound. I'm going to do 1/2 pound in this, and then going to do the same thing, do 1/2 pound in that. And then that should be cooled off. But to just give it even a little bit more time, I'm going to actually pour the cold apple cider into this first, the raw apple cider. And then after all of that, that should be cooled off enough and I can pour that in there. And now I'm going to pour 1/2 pound. I didn't really think about this. So this honey is actually from last year. So it's not as loose as this honey because this honey literally just got bottled the other day. This is from last year when I made the apple cider mead. So this is actually going to take a little bit longer. So to save some time, I'm just going to skip ahead, get this done, and we'll be back shortly. All right, so I've got 1 1.5 pounds in both growlers now. This one is pretty much done with the honey dripping. This one still has honey dripping in, but I could swap them out now, tear it off, and I'm going to start pouring some of that unpasteurized apple cider in here. It's cold, it's not hot like that one, and any extra honey that is around the brim, again, I want to get that all in. The apple cider will flush that out, but my garlic fermented honey is also done. Now, it's going to float to the top. That's normal from what I've read online. Every couple of days or so, you just want to tilt it upside down to get all of the garlic submerged again. But you want to leave the lid on nice and loose, kind of for the same idea that I put the air locks on these, because it's going to be fermenting. It's a fermentation process. Air is going to need to escape. So you put it on loose so the air can escape through there. Obviously, you'll tighten it when you flip it upside down, and then you'll loosen it again so that more air can continue. It should be ready to use within a few weeks or so, but to really get the full fermentation out of it, it's good to just leave it in a dark place for about a month, but you can use it really at any time. Again, from what I've seen online and from the little research that I've done, you can use it at any time, but to really get the full benefits from it, let it sit for a month, but continue to shake it every few days or so. Now, to begin with, I'm not going to go ahead and fill this up all the way because, again, I need to be able to shake it so that air can get in and also so the honey can really mix into the must. So I'm going to fill this up about halfway. I have this teared off, so it says 0 pounds, 0 ounces right now. But I'm going to pour this, shake it up, and then pour it to what I feel reaches this 1 gallon line. And then whatever weight that is, I'm going to copy and do with the pasteurized apple cider. Before I go ahead and start adding the pasteurized apple cider into the other growler, I actually want to take a quick gravity reading of this just to kind of estimate what alcohol percent this is going to be at, because I didn't really think about it until now, and there could possibly be too many sugars in this because there are a decent amount of sugars in apples. So once this is mixed up enough, I'm going to take a gravity reading just to kind of gauge what is going on with my must. Again, as I mentioned before, everything is sanitized before I use any of it. All right, so I've got my hydrometer, my graduated cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and see what this is looking like. It gets kind of complicated when you're reading it because, remember, the gravity of water is 1.000. Now, when I'm looking at this, anything above that is going to be 1.0 and then insert number here until it gets to 1.1. So right now it's basically right at that 1.100 mark. So that's actually a really good reading for this because that's going to get me, I'll get back to you on it. I'm using my phone to record, so I don't have a calculator nearby, but I'll get that to you. So the pasteurized apple cider is still cooling off a little bit, so I'm going to let that do its thing, and then I'm going to come back, and once that's cooled off, I'm going to fill this up to the same level. All right, so I've got both growlers filled. This one is the unpasteurized, and this is the pasteurized. It's finally cooled off enough that I can put the yeast in, and it's not going to kill anything off. Both have about 1.5 pounds of honey. Both have about 1 gallon, relatively under, of apple cider. And both have gravity readings of 1.100. So they are essentially the same. The only difference is this one is unpasteurized and this one is pasteurized. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the yeast nutrient. This calls for 1 teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon for that one, and 1 teaspoon for that one. And then for the yeast, normally I would do about half a packet, but if I'm going to be honest, these 2 packets are from about 2 years ago, right around the time that I first started making mead. So yeast do kind of die. Again, they are essentially living things. So I'm just going to put a whole packet in just to be safe. I feel like even if I did half a packet, they would be fine, but it's better to be on the safe side. And I've got to use these up at some point anyways, so it's not going to do any damage if you put more yeast. It just creates a bigger colony when it's time to convert to alcohol. All right, and then I'm just going to give it a nice little swirl so that the yeast is submerged and it can form a colony inside. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the unpasteurized. All right, and that looks good. So both of these are now done. I'm going to go ahead and get these 2 airlocks filled up with sanitizer liquid, put them in, and then from there we just wait. These are going to come out to about 13 to 14-ish% alcohol, which is the perfect target range. I believe, and this is just going off the top of my head, Loudland 71B I think can go up to about 16 at most. I could be wrong. That's just off of memory. But even then, 13 to 14% for most yeast strains is about how high it goes anyways. So this is right in that perfect zone. I'm excited. And honestly, I really don't know how these are going to ferment because, again, as I mentioned earlier, with the unpasteurized in the past, and again, I didn't have any of the equipment, it appeared to stall. And then last year with the unpasteurized, it went perfectly dry. So now that we have them down to the exact same levels of honey and apple cider, yeast nutrient, I'm very curious to see which one is going to do better. I'm curious to see if they're going to do the same. We'll only find out with time. Again, I could take a gravity reading in a few weeks and just compare how quickly they're converting to alcohol. And then in a month, again, you let them ferment until they're dry. So we'll see which one goes dry the quickest. Maybe they'll go at the same time. We'll find out. So that's all I have for you guys today. Again, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next video.